Okay, we're bringing it another day that you have an opportunity to transform. Even though there may be others around you that don't have the same goals as you, it doesn't mean that you cannot inspire others. And usually people learn from observation. So follow your goals exactly as you planned out, and you never know, you may be transforming other people around you. Today we have the perfect platforms of social accountability. So put your goals online, be transparent with your goals. Tell your friends, your loved ones, your co-workers, and that could give you the accountability that you need to succeed. We're starting today's shoulder workout again with the Arnold press. As I mentioned, made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. I want you to push it a little bit more this week by grabbing hold of some heavier dumbbells. We reached failure between 15 and 20 reps last week, and of course it's the same this week, so you need to push yourself extra hard with extra weight or extra repetitions. Okay, so starting off, same as last week, palms towards your anterior deltoid, your front portion of your shoulders, and then you're gonna rotate out, and those palms should face forward at the top of the movement. Elbows coming forward, and then back up. Elbows forward and back up with your back aligned and your core tight. Keep your upper body aligned. Do not slouch with your posture. Keep the posture high, chest up, chin up. I don't want you to pause at the bottom. I want you to pause and squeeze at the top of this movement as your palms face towards the anterior head of your delts. This is your commitment to yourself, nobody else, that you are finally gonna finish something that you've begun. So let's hit it. So your arms rotate out and around and then back up. This will target both the front portion of your shoulder and the side portion of your shoulder. So the anterior and lateral head of your delts. Now, as we're getting into the momentum of this workout, we need to still focus on our performance. Are you doing everything that you can to recover in order to dictate that you perform at your peak? So the Arnold press obviously works the anterior head of the delt, the front and the lateral head, but we still need to isolate these areas. So we're gonna go onto the single arm lateral raise now with a dumbbell. So what you're gonna do is hold onto the dumbbell, same as last week. However, I want you to increase the weight or the repetitions to reach failure between your 15 and 20 repetitions. So hand on your hip, palm facing towards your body, and then palm facing towards the floor at the top of the movement. No swinging. Pause at the top to make it even harder if you don't have a heavier weight. And really work that negative for about a 3-second count to increase that intensity and load on the lateral head of the delt to make it a little bit harder. And once you've completed one side, you move on to the other. Your posture should be completely aligned. That means your upper body and lower body straight, standing tall. Keeping your shoulder slightly back, retracting your shoulder blades so you can really target the muscle group that we are primarily moving here, which is the lateral head of the delts. You're gonna keep your muscle tension applied throughout the entirety of this movement by bringing your arm up slightly bent to the side until your arm is parallel to the floor. And then when you come down to the side, stop about an inch or two from the side of your hips and your thighs to keep the constant tension applied to the lateral head of your delts. This is your commitment to yourself, nobody else, that you are finally gonna finish something that you've begun. So let's hit it. You have a goal in front of you, but how descriptive are you with those goals? Write down the details, visualize the details, and make sure that you are mindful of those details towards your goal every single day. Manifest them. So we're back in a seated position again, much like the Arnold press. However, this time we're doing a conventional dumbbell shoulder press now, which will target again a little bit more of the lateral head, not so much of the front head, but will engage the rear head of the shoulder as well. So push yourself again more than last week by either grabbing heavier weight, increasing the repetitions, or shortening the rest period, or even better, slowing down that negative. Okay, so we're gonna lift it up, push up overhead, and then slowly down till the dumbbells touch your shoulders, and then back up. Keep your back aligned, neck aligned, core tight. Breathe out on the way up, breathe in on the way back down. So sitting down in a seat, your posture of your back should be completely straight. In doing so, squeeze your core or your abs to make sure that your lower back doesn't collapse. Your shoulders should be back and your head should be aligned with your neck, keeping your chin up. The muscle groups that you are going to target here is going to be the lateral head of your delts and the anterior head of your delts. To keep muscle tension applied, come down until your arms are just below parallel and then press up until your arms are almost locked out. Do not lock out your elbows because we want to keep the tension applied to your anterior and your lateral head of the delts. This is where people either fall off or they move forward and they come up in a winner's circle. Do you want to end up on the podium, or do you want to be just another number? Be a success within yourself by pushing yourself every single day, marking off every single meal and every single workout to absolute failure in order to achieve your goals. So now you have an understanding of where your limits lie. So let's push past them. Push past any limits that you've put in front of you. There are no limits, only your limitations. So let's get to that last set and push it harder than we did the ones before. So now we've isolated the lateral head of the delt. Now we've got to isolate and fatigue the anterior head of the delt with front raises with a resistance band. So we did this last week. Now I want you to increase the intensity by either standing wider with your feet on a resistance band or holding it a little bit wider. You can also really focus on that negative to slow it down to increase stress and load on the delts as well. Overhand grip, pull up to eye line, slowly on the negative, and repeat until you've reached failure between 15 and 20 repetitions for every one of these 5 working sets. When you're holding onto the resistance band at the bottom of this movement, you should be stepped about shoulder width apart over the resistance band with your feet. There should be tension applied to the resistance band in this beginning phase. As you're coming up, you're going to be targeting your rear head of your delts, the lateral head of your delts, the anterior head of your delts, and your trapezius muscles. When you come up to the top portion of this position, I want you to pause for a second. But then when you're going back down to your starting position, I don't want you to pause with your arms out straight. There will be tension in the bands, and this is what's going to cause tension on your muscles. I want you to focus on the muscles and the weights when you're performing each one of these exercises. I don't want you distracted in conversation, scrolling on your phone, answering emails, or any of that when you're in the gym or at home working out. I want you focused on the muscles that you're working and the weights that you should be pushing. Okay, we've got some great momentum going on now. Remember why you started this. Who are you trying to prove wrong? Is it yourself? Is it other people that doubt you? You can put their doubts to the curb now as you continue to push yourself towards that end goal and walk out a success. Now we're moving on to the rear delts, just like last week with a bent over rear dumbbell raise. Increase the resistance though, grab heavier dumbbells, pause at the top, work the negative, just challenge yourself more than last week. Remember, whatever you put in to these workouts is what you're going to see in your reflection at the end of this transformation. So let's drive it hard now, okay? But keep your form tight. Grab hold of the dumbbells, keep your back straight at the top. Continue to keep your back straight when you hinge over, palms facing towards each other, come up, hold for a second, and then slowly down. Up, squeeze, contract, and think and visualize your rear delt doing all the work, not your back. Arms just slightly bent when you're performing this movement. Now we're going to be targeting the rear delts with this movement. So as you bring the dumbbells out to the side, I want you to ensure that you keep your back straight and no movement coming from the lower back. To keep constant tension applied to your rear delts, I want you to come up, pause for a second, then as you come back down, I don't want the dumbbells to touch together. There should be no momentum. The dumbbells should just come down until they're right below the fronts of your arms or your shoulders before coming back up. That will allow constant tension to be targeted onto the rear delts. It's not meant to be easy. It's supposed to be difficult. If it was easy, everybody would have the physique that they've always wanted. But the people who have the body they've always wanted have not given up, and neither are you. Now, I always say you need to reach absolute failure in order to succeed in the gym. So when I say failure, when you're performing repetitions, you should reach absolute failure, meaning that you could not perform one more repetition even if your life depended on it. That is failure. And it's the only place in the world that we have to reach failure in order to succeed outside of the weights area. Now, I counted on you to challenge yourself last week. Now, I'm counting on you to challenge yourself even more this week. We have to progress week by week. If you haven't, it's because you're just not putting in the effort. It all comes down to how bad you want it. I often see transformations not from the neck down, but from the neck up. How bad do you want it? So we're going into shrugs now. I want you to pick up heavier dumbbells than you did last week to challenge yourself, okay? So we're working the traps, either side of the neck. We're gonna grab hold of those heavier dumbbells than last week, and we're going to shrug up and then pull down. Shrug up and resist on the way down. Pause at the top and then come back down. Drop your neck forward just slightly so you can squeeze those shoulder blades together. If your dumbbells aren't heavy enough, you can always add a resistance band to it as well. Just reach failure within the repetitions required. When beginning this movement, make sure that your upper body is straight, chest out, but drop your head down slightly. I want you to do this so you can really squeeze your traps together at the top of this movement. So the primary muscle group that you are going to be working is going to be the upper muscle fibers of the trapezius muscle. To keep tension applied, I want you to pause at the top of the movement, not at the bottom. So keeping the tension applied at the top for a split second and then slowly coming back down. And once you've reached the starting position, I want you to immediately go back up without a pause, but pause at the top, not at the bottom, to keep the muscle tension applied. When you're performing the concentric part of the movement or the positive part, or when you're actually pushing, that's when you breathe out. Remember, if you have to scream to push that exercise because it's so hard, you have to exhale. Okay, you've got this. Remember, you have to control your environment. Don't allow yourself to get controlled by it. There are weekends that you're not going to feel good about doing this. There are going to be mornings that are going to be dark and you'll want to sleep in. You'll look at your meal and you'll want to have the cheap meal that your friend is having next to you. This is where you step up and take control instead of being controlled by your environment. This is where you face your fears. This is where you turn your weaknesses into weapons. So let's do this. So we're done with the upper body. We're moving on to the lower body with a single-legged 1.5 rep calf press. I want you to challenge yourself this week by holding a dumbbell for extra resistance other than your body weight. So with one foot halfway onto a step, you're gonna put let's say you start with your left side, you'll hold the weight on your left side. So whatever leg that you're working is the same side that you'll hold the dumbbell, okay? So you're gonna go all the way down, get a full range of motion, and then all the way up, halfway down, and back up. All the way down, halfway up, and then back up. That's gonna be 2 reps. So it's up, halfway down, back up, all the way down, that's 3. Contract it at the top for a second and then slowly work the negative. Once you've reached absolute failure at about 20 to 25 repetitions, you do the same thing with the other leg. And remember, you've got 6 sets here. Keep it intense. You don't need that much of a rest period between each set because you're doing one leg at a time. To begin with your posture, I want you to hold onto a bench or something solid to support your upper body. Your upper body should be straight. Your leg that you are working should be slightly bent. The other leg can be relaxed. The muscle that you are going to be targeting here is in the lower leg, and that is the gastrocnemius. You're going to keep constant tension applied to the gastrocnemius by pausing at the top for a second. You're going to slowly come down with the negative over about 2 seconds as you come down, and then you're going to explode back up, but pause there for a second to keep constant tension applied to the gastrocnemius. All right, remember why you started this. Take a look at yourself in the mirror. Are you doing everything that you could be doing in order to achieve the success? How many years have you looked at yourself and said, you know what? January 1st, I'm going to start again. Monday, I'm going to hit it harder. But here you are, looking at yourself in the mirror again. This is your time to change. This is your time to have the boot camp that is going to test you and change you for the rest of your life. I want you to focus on the mind-muscle connection, but also the weight and the stress and the load that you're placing upon the muscle. You can't just focus on the muscle on growing if you don't have enough resistance. So make sure the resistance places enough stress on the muscle in order for it to protest by growing. Okay, we are getting towards the end here now. We're getting to the last final stretch. You're going to be a little bit lethargic. You're going to be tired. You may have a little bit of doubt, but this is where your recovery techniques really come into play so you can perform and get over to that last stretch at your absolute best. Okay, great workout, perfect, you're done. But you need to optimize your next workout by recovering. So make sure you have your post-workout shake in you right now, or have your post-workout meal so we're prepared to annihilate tomorrow.